What is up, you guys? It's Kaiola. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I post productivity, organization, and lifestyle videos every Thursday. Normally I like to keep things light, fun, fresh on my channel, but today we're going to be talking about something a little more serious. I'll be talking about how I stopped binge eating and basically my journey, healing, and recovery. And I want to make sure that it's clear that the term stopped binge eating is used very lightly. That looks so weird behind my head. Okay. But anyways, even though I was super hesitant about making this video and being this vulnerable online, I really wanted to get back into what I eat in a day videos and different food challenges, but I wanted to make sure that I was transparent. I had posted a video about my fitness and health journey. I never want to be that person who's like, oh yeah, it's easy, just do this, this, and that. Like, no, it's hard, and it's hard for different reasons for different people. I feel like diet culture lately just tries to make it black and white like that. Like, just go on a diet, just eat healthy, yada yada yada. Everyone sees it. I see it all over my TikTok all the time. So I just don't want to be someone who adds to that. I also just think no one really talks about eating disorders, so I wanted to touch on it. My eating disorder actually got really bad these last couple of years, and that's something that I worked on in therapy this time around. So let's get into it and discuss my binge eating journey. I never thought I would say that online. So binge eating is defined as a severe, life-threatening, and treatable eating disorder characterized by recurrent episodes of eating large quantities of food, often very quickly and to the point of discomfort and nausea, a feeling of loss of control during binging, and experiencing shame, distress, or guilt afterwards. I feel like if you're not purging or severely under or overweight, people don't really validate your eating disorder and feelings regarding it. People don't understand it. This video in no means is to glamorize eating disorders whatsoever, but instead to normalize talking about it and working through it. So I never, even as a kid, had a good relationship with food. I'm part Samoan, so I just always felt like I was bigger than most of my friends and my family members. So at an early age, I was already so self-aware and critical of my body image. I would always get jokes about my weight, how I'm always hungry or eating, and I'd get a lot of like referring to leftovers, like, oh, just give it to her, she'll finish it, like, because I'm always hungry or I'm always eating something. So I've just genuinely always been insecure about my body and my eating habits. And it wasn't until 3 or 4 years ago where I actually recognized and acknowledged that my eating habits and my feelings and my thoughts that came with food and eating was not normal. It was very black and white, that because I'm not bulimic and I'm not purging after my binge, that my feelings weren't really valid and it wasn't a problem at all. I would just label it as poor eating habits. I felt super ashamed and guilty, but I honestly didn't know who to go to for help, and I didn't know if help was even needed, again, because I wasn't purging. I knew a little bit about eating disorders, but really the only thing I learned from people, life, school was just you're either bulimic or anorexic if you have an eating disorder, which obviously is not the case, but that's really all that I knew. At least in my life, I don't know anyone who has an eating disorder, and I never really hear anyone talk about it in general. So when I would go to people, their first instinct is just go on a diet, then just watch what you eat, just don't overeat, just don't do it, have discipline. So when I started really gaining weight, I got a personal trainer. She's someone that is very well known. This fitness coach works a lot with different celebrities and influencers, so I just felt that the credibility was there and that she would be worth the money. So I opened up and talked to her about it when I was doing like my initial intake of what my current body looks like, because it was an online fitness coach. She works from LA, I believe, and these are my numbers, these are my measurements, these are my goals. And then I talked to her about my concerns and my issues with binge eating, and she basically just said everything that everyone else was saying. If anything, she just supported my beliefs and fears of finally getting the courage to tell people and then going to tell them, and then they just say that I just have poor eating habits and I just need to have discipline. So it really didn't validate my feelings at all, and it probably hurt my food relationship even more. I went through her program and I tried everything that she said, and I genuinely genuinely lived by it, especially because I paid hundreds of dollars to work with her, that I wanted to make sure that I got everything out of it. So I was tracking my calories, weighing my food, meal prepping, just genuinely ignoring my hunger. I had stopped eating by 10 p.m. max, and then I'd fast until 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. the next day. And if I was really hungry, aside from my set meals and snacks that she planned throughout the days for me, I would just chug water to suppress that hunger. I just really wanted to be skinnier, better, smaller, and just get rid of those feelings and urges as soon as possible. Like I really wanted it to work. By the way, the things that I listed, they are fine and healthy ways of losing weight, but just when an eating disorder is a part of the current issue, it doesn't really help anything. I just wanted to make that clear. I just ended up putting food on such a high pedestal and restricting myself because I gained weight so easily, and I really didn't want to gain any more. At this point, I was the heaviest I've ever been. For now, for little did I know, because a couple of years later I binged even more, and then I gained a lot more weight, and I was the heaviest I've ever been. I got up to 195 pounds, and it just wasn't healthy at all. I would walk up like high hills in San Francisco and things like that, and I would just be completely out of breath, and I felt like I was gonna pass out. Meanwhile, the person that I'm hanging out with, they're just fine. So it's just, I just knew I wasn't healthy anymore, and that was the very bottom for me. Well, I ended up losing all the weight that I wanted to, so yay me, right? But I ended up being super depressed and sluggish and very moody. It almost became a joke within my household. If I were to ask questions or anything like that, I'd probably end up snapping at you, and I'm just like, I'm just hungry kind of thing. Like it just ended up being a joke, but it wasn't funny. It was very unhealthy. And with my restriction came even more binging. As soon as my program was over, I came back, and the binging and the urges came back full force. So it was almost like a cycle of me wanting to get rid of my eating disorder, going on a diet, restricting foods that are high in calories or would just make me gain weight. But then because I didn't let myself eat that food, I'd binge, and then I'd binge either later that night, or I'd binge for days, weeks, months sometimes, and then I'll hate myself at the end of every single night that I binge. I'd feel guilty and then shame myself, or I'd be so full that I wouldn't have the energy or the motivation to work out, and then I'd hate myself even more because I didn't work off all the calories. And then because I ruined my streak of not binging, then I would be like, okay, well, I already ruined it. I might as well just restart on Monday, or I'd restart next month on the 1st, and then I'd want to get better. It's just a constant cycle. The hardest part for me was the fact that I could relapse at any time, whether I'm happy, sad, mad, stressed. I'd always put food as my biggest reward and coping mechanism because, like I said, I put food on such a high pedestal. For example, I had a good or I had a bad day today, I deserve this cake. And then it would just restart all over again because I wouldn't stop at just that cake. Or I'd have the whole freaking cake instead of just a slice. And then I'm like, well, I already messed it up. Like I said, it's just a cycle. But it gets better. It really does. It doesn't seem like it's going to when you're going through it. Again, I want to emphasize the title of this video that I use the term stopped very lightly. I've made so much progress mentally and physically. I'm in so much of a better place than I was a year ago, but I still have my moments. It just takes time to figure out what genuinely works for you. It's all part of the journey, and it's just a giant roller coaster. Struggling, finally realizing that you have a problem and you want to fix it, failing to find help, struggling, finding ways to cope and get better, failing at those ways, realizing those aren't the ways that are going to help you, finding new ways, struggling, doing better, struggling again. It's definitely exhausting. When I do struggle and I do have those triggers and deal with it, it's never as bad as it was a year ago when I was at my lowest point. The things that really helped me are these tips and realizations, but I do want to add a disclaimer that these tips and realizations may or may not help you. Everyone is different. If any of these things would trigger you, please don't do it by any means, but I just want to let you know what helped me and maybe it can help you. Number one, moderation over restriction. If you want a cookie, eat one. Once you start saying no and restricting everything, that's when you'll binge and you'll eat the whole container of cookies instead of just the one initially just wanted. If you're hungry, eat. Food is fuel, but try to keep in mind and differentiate needs versus wants. You don't only need to eat based off of survival, but just don't let those wants dictate your whole life. You just don't want to overindulge. After you eat your meal or your snack, do you want more or do you genuinely need more? If you genuinely need more, then eat. You're just hungry. If you already feel full and you feel ill for the amount you ate, try and stop and think to yourself, do I really want this or do I need this? And if you're feeling sick, you really don't need it. You just have to find that balance. So go with moderation, because restriction just ends up leading to obsession. It's like that quote that they say that you want what you can't have. Number 2, listen to your body. Figure out those mental and physical cues, those cues of when you're getting full, when you're about to binge, when you're feeling satisfied with the food that you ate and the amount of food that you ate. Try and learn those and remember those and keep those in mind. Genuinely start to pay attention to your body and what it wants and what it needs so you can care for it in the right way. Number 3, portioning and individual packaging. For those who aren't new to my channel, you've seen my refrigerator and pantry restocking videos, which I love. They're amazing. But I would have a lot of individual packaged foods, and I would always get comments like, oh, it's bad for the environment. You can just get family size bags, yada, yada, yada. Yes, I know, but it's helped me with my eating disorder. If there was no other option, then I would get those family size bags, whatever. But then when I am going to eat it, then I'd pour it in a bowl or something, just so I can have some portion control when it comes to it. I just became more self-aware and realized that if there's that opportunity to eat a whole bag, I will. Like, I have no self-control when it comes to that. It became really hard for me, especially in the beginning, to allow myself those opportunities. Because again, I didn't want to restrict myself, but I wanted to enjoy that with moderation. Having those smaller bags and portions helped me stop and really force myself to think, what is a want and what is a need? Instead of having the big family size bags, even though they may be cheaper and more cost effective, if I'm sitting and watching TV and I'm just eating chips or whatever, I'm gonna finish the whole bag because I'm really not paying attention. Having those smaller bags, they're gonna end eventually. Half of it is air alone. It forces me to stop and think, do I want another bag? Do I need another bag? Sometimes, yeah, if I want another one and I'm just in the mood for it, yeah, I'll let myself have one. But at least it made me pause and think, instead of mindlessly eating a giant bag of chips and never stopping to think about, am I really full? Do I really want some more? Should I stop? Should I keep going? Because I didn't have that willpower, and even sometimes now I can't trust myself to do that, and then it'll just push me right back into that cycle that I talked about. So even if I do let myself have another small bag of chips, candy, whatever, at least I stopped and thought about it. And then after that second one, it's gonna make me stop and think about it again. With this, even though it's bad for the environment, and I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, it allowed me to gain control over what goes into my body. Number 4, diet. Do not fix binge eating. Like I talked about during my story, it ended up just hurting me more. Weight loss will just come naturally once you stop or slow down with the binge eating. So ditch the diet and just focus on getting better and working on your mental health. You need to make sure you're eating enough throughout the day so you're not malnourished, because then at the end of the day, which at least that's usually when I binge, my body will then not trust me that I'm gonna feed it enough nutrients and food throughout the day, so it's binging and forcing myself to eat as much as I can because it doesn't trust me anymore. Even if you've binged the night before and you're feeling that guilt and that shame, make sure you still eat those 3 meals and snacks the next day, and make sure they're genuinely balanced meals so that you stay full. Number 5, positive self-love and self-talk matters. The way that you talk about yourself, see yourself in the mirror, matters and plays a huge role when it comes to eating disorders. Your body doesn't know the difference between being dramatic or joking around, being sarcastic versus being truthful. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm fat, I have an eating disorder, I am ugly, whatever, your body and your soul is gonna believe that, and it'll reflect in your reality. Once you start perceiving yourself in a better light and you start speaking to yourself in a better and more positive way, it'll really help with your mental health, which will help with your eating disorder. Just fake it till you make it. It's like when you just manifest, which if you want manifesting videos, I would love to do them. I love manifesting. But it's like when you're manifesting, you make it current and you have to believe it and you have to say it, even those days where you don't. I have money. Thankful for the money that I have. So happy that riches just come to me so easily. Things like that. So the same thing. I'm gorgeous. I'm beautiful the way I am. I am working on my binge eating. I'm a survivor of binge eating and an eating disorder. So that your mind, body, spirit, soul, the universe They know you'll say it so much that you'll end up believing it in the end. But those are my tips, and if you're going through an eating disorder right now, I feel for you, but you're not alone. It takes work, but you can overcome this. I respond to all my comments, so if you need someone, comment down below, and my DMs are always open. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped someone, and I'll link some resources down below, and just take care of yourself. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.